Hello, homies, and a very special, warm welcome to Homeopathy Hangout. We have got such a treat for you today with the incredible Eileen Nauman back here. But not only that, for the first time ever, we have some listeners listening in as well. They're not really listeners, they're besties who have come in to have a listen to this to help us with picking Eileen's brain afterwards with her 77 years of experience. We want to make sure we get all the beautiful juices out of this. So I've got some people to help me ask questions. But Sarah Valentini and Danitza Appeline Matic and Amy Vickers, Rebecca Dove Thomas, and Janie Lavelle. So, Eileen, I'm going to say this and mean it this time. Go for it. And I'm going to be quiet.
I think it's hard for either one of us to be quiet for too long. It just
Shh, don't tell anyone.
okay. All right. Well, the first thing I want to say to the ladies here, I'm really glad to see you. I'm a bra burning feminist from the 1960s. I cried when my mother put a bra on me at 12 years old. I didn't want it. I hated it. And take it off and throw it in the garbage every time I can. She'd go retrieve it and bring it back. She was a Scorpio with Sag rising and a Leo moon. So she was going to get her way. Anyway, I think it's very important because we live in a patriarchal male society worldwide that one of my most important focuses is on working with women as team members, understanding that each team member is to be fully respected, fully equal, and each one of you has skill sets that I don't have, and that since we are right brain dominant, which is where, by the way, all the psychic tools reside, which is really good. That we all contribute what we have, what we know, what our experiences are. And just like me, my information is like a tiny slice in a 360-degree pie. Mine's a metaphysics. And all of you have important areas of abilities, and your experience is one thing that talks to me and has the loudest megaphone. Anytime I talk to someone about something, you can't dismiss experience. You can't say it's a lie. You can't say you're making it up because it actually happened to you. You own it 100%. And that's what I've lived my life on, is my experience. Now, I had good training and good teachers, my parents, 18 years of being taught metaphysics. While you guys were being, you girls were being taught other things that were more or less into the patriarchal mold that they want all women in. I got out of that first off because my mother was a druid and my father was a shaman through his Native American lineage. So, yeah, I'm different. Very different. But what I really am is a role model for what all of you can be, because we all have the same tools and equipment up here. Nobody is better or different or more wonderful than anybody else. We all have the same brain. My interest, besides working with women, because I have a very strong dislike of this patriarchal world. I was raised in a matriarchal environment for 18 years. And what that means is when you live in a matriarchy society, that men and women are both equally respected and are both have different skill sets, different knowledge, different education, different experiences, but they all count. And in a matriarchy, you're always a village of one group. And everybody in the group has certain skill sets that contribute to the whole, to everybody else in that village. This is very Native American, but it's also very indigenous. And so everything that I do is pointed toward being one, working with women. For the most part, I do have matriarchal male friends. who I love like brothers. But I don't have much like of patriarchal men, period. I don't care what color the skin is. So you just kind of need to know where I'm coming from on this, because I see us as a village. We're a global village. And so your questions to me later will be very, very important, because each one of you have experiences, and maybe you have some things that you need some filled in that you didn't know about that maybe I know about. However, my information has its limits too. I'm not perfect. I Nobody down here is, and ain't ever gonna be when they're in an incarnation in a human 3D, which is the third dimensional body. So when Eugenie and I got together, I'd already seen this coming, because for the last year I have been hounded by groups of people globally to give information out that I know. But I saw that once I gave the information out, that because they had no foundation to put it on, it was like a balloon floating around, but it didn't have a place where it could land. And I'm a stickler on foundation. I used to train. I'm on my last two students training, mostly women, 125 students over the last 40 years. When they train in to become shamans with me, I handpick them. They come to me. I don't have to find them. The universe sends them to me. And they work for 5 to 7 years with me before I turn them loose to let them do what I do, what I was trained to do. But I was trained to do it in 18 years of training through my parents. So there's a huge thing here. And you can't do shamanism in a week long, a Saturday, Sunday, and then get your certificate that says I are a shaman. You can't go to a 5-day workshop that says I are a shaman. It don't work like that. I can tell you from 40 years of experience, we have handled more people who have had spiritual crisis and emergencies because they've gone to these types of things because they wanted to be a shaman, to do the work. But whatever they were taught, it's like, you have, say, 7 to 8, maybe 10 years to become a medical doctor. Well, it's the same for a shaman. You're not going to do surgery on somebody until you have gone through all of that and learned all of the different applications and the responsibilities and the experiences that you need to do it and do it right. Same thing with shamanism. And shamans are not built in a night. Shamans are very unique people. They're not special. I hate that word. We're all unique. And when I started talking about this through the homeopathic groups last year, they were all excited. And it was like they were excited about getting their spirit guides. I'll just take that as an example of this. I'm not going to say who, what, when, or where, but what I will say is that I told this one group, I said, well, we could always learn about, who's your spirit guide, because that's a very important thing. That's vital. And wouldn't it be nice if you could talk to your spirit guide face to face in a safe place? And it appears to be in 3D, but it isn't. It's actually in 4D, and you're actually learning a shamanic way of moving back and forth between the different dimensions, because they have a different vibrational energy, and you can certainly feel it. It's a shift. And so they all wanted to learn about spirit guides, and I walked away from that thinking they don't have a foundation to put this on. And even if I told them how to do it, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They wouldn't be able to anchor it to something that had a beginning, a middle, and an end that you all need, no matter what you are trained to do. If it's a homeopath, guess what? You gotta learn the repertory. You gotta learn the materia medica. You've got to learn how to take a case. And one hopes that you have some kind of medical background that can buttress and help you, because you're getting sick people who want help. So I thought a lot about that, and I thought I can't give this information out. And there's an actual technique to do it. Okay. It's a shamanic technique. It works 100% of the time with everybody. Unless you have fear or you're scared, then it won't work for you. And that means that you're simply not ready for it. And there's no shame in that. And there's nobody pointing the finger going, you're not ready for this. There's no judgment either. It's just where everybody is at. And you have to trust your own intuition and your own knowing, which is part of your heart. My people are trained for 5 to 7 years. We are heart-centered. The information that I was given that through my father is way ahead of the old-time primitive shamanic uh, types of ways of doing things out there in the other dimensions. And we are the only group. I have 125. I actually have 123 now because my brother died and then one of my other male shamans died. So I've got one left and all the rest are women. So there's 123 now right now. And I'm training two more, so that'll bring it back up to 125, but they've got several more years with me before they can do that. If we don't have a foundation, we can do nothing with anything that I give you, because that's like, I don't know if you've seen Walt Disney's little movie. It's called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. You should all go Google it. You should all watch it, because every one of you is a sorcerer's apprentice per Walt Disney's way of presenting it. Okay. The difference between shamans and sorcerers are that shamans, at least my people, come from the heart, stay in the heart. It's about compassion and love and no judgment of whatever we see and whatever we bring back as far as pieces go or messages go. And that's all we do. That's what shamans are. They're like the cosmic post person, if you will. We don't bring envelopes or stamps on them. We bring energy pieces back that you've lost and that we've had permission to bring back to you. And then we begin a process of getting those pieces reacclimated back to the auric field that it came out of, or the auric fields that were damaged by it. Everything, and we have specialists from the other side, specialists, shamanic, surgeons, medical people who actually do anything that has to do with medical. All I do is I hold the energy open between the third dimension and the 4D plus, which is the fourth dimension, and other dimensions. There's so many I've lost count. Yeah, I hold that open because I have to be in a 3D body to do that. And that's what shamans do. We hold the opening. And then I have about 20 different spirit guides who do different things. When we go out and we look for pieces, we don't decide anything. We are told where to go. We are told which piece to bring back. And that is our function. So it's not really very, it's not Hollywood. It's like, oh, okay, this is what you do. You're like an animal in a harness and you're plowing the field, only you're plowing up these pieces for these people to bring back, and it's going to make their lives a whole lot better and a whole lot more balanced and harmonious. Even though we're all imperfect, it gives an incredible rebalancing so that we can get back on our path that we chose this lifetime in this incarnation to do. And that's the whole reason why shamans do what they do. That's our job. It's not glamorous, let me tell you. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world, because anytime we're called in and are given permission to do this for somebody, we're never given a happy piece that's brought back. Happy pieces most likely aren't stuck someplace in some other incarnation. And if you know anything about the Akashic records, that is the Hall of Records that we all have, all of our incarnations. They're like in little boxes, and you can view them and you can see the whole life and everything you want about it. I don't waste much time on that because I don't have that kind of time in 3D. All I want to know is, okay, what do I got to go after? And then when I go there, I know that I am not going to see anything that is happy. I and any other shaman is going to see the worst possible things that can go on in humanity that they do to another person. It is just death-defying, unbelievable, and unreal. And it takes a person who is not fragile, who is not frail, who most of my shamans are either matured middle-aged souls or they are old souls. They're the only ones that have been able to accrue the kind of strength that it takes to do this work. I've had a few of my shamans over the years quit because of PTSD, because they've seen too much and they can't any longer handle it. And it's perfect to go ahead and step away from it. This is like watching train wrecks and mass murderers every day you go out. And I am not joking. It's not a glamorous job. It is a service path job as far as the spirit goes. But it demands everything of you because you're in a human body and you're imperfect. And so, of course, you're going to go out and you're going to retrieve pieces for a person in some incarnation somewhere, whether it's on this earth or not, doesn't really matter. And when you go in and see it and you happen to have a wound yourself in that area, it's going to get to you so fast. And in our business, you cannot judge. We work with the perpetrator as much and as lovingly as we do the victim of that perpetrator. And how many of you would like to try that one on for size? How about a mass murderer? Can you really love this person that just murdered 19 children, which is what has happened over here at Uvalde, Texas last year? It takes someone who really knows right from wrong, who understands the cosmic laws, who has the heart to do this work. But the shamans are at the, if you want to look at everything as a pyramid, we're at the top of the pyramid. We really are the emergency crew who does things that nobody else either wants to do or could do. And I'll give you a little other story on this, and then we're going to get to the foundation of why I'm here tonight and why you're here tonight. We're going to build a foundation together. And it's going to make you very strong, and you're going to feel very balanced, and you're going to come out with information that you can use every day of your life. Metaphysics, all right, which is what it's called, is actually applicable to the third dimension and works very, very well. It's just the fact that you're working with energy that most of you can't see. And if you're clairvoyant, you can see it. And anybody can become clairvoyant. And I can give you, a particular lesson that was given to me by my father at 9 years old to do that opened me up. And it'll open you up too, but you got to really work at it, and you really got to want to do this. Because everything's shut down here until we open it up and we put pressure on it, and we do it daily, every day, which is what I did. So I just want to give you one little peek into this. This was back probably about 20 years ago. I had a group of 6 in who had been training with me for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, they actually get to start learning how to shift from being in 3D into 4D plus, and to be able to go someplace and look and see and bring something back. They don't bring pieces back from people, but what they will do is because I have 6 of them, one person is the person that they're going to journey for, even though they're one of my trainees, and then the other trainee is going to be the shaman. And they will do a journey for them because I've taught them how to do the journey. What happened was, this was in Scotland. I was into the 3rd day of training this particular group up. And I had gone in for lunch. We had a break, an hour break for lunch at our home. I had a Hogan there where I built it over a vortex so that I could elaborate the vortex energies, the feminine vortex, so that we could use that, and it helps people lift off easier as a result of that. Again, it's the use of energy. You can't see it, but you can use it. I was inside and I had my meal and I was coming back and we were going to the Hogan after that hour. And but before that, I had heard the TV, and they said that this man from Scotland had gone into this, either I thought it was the first or second grade, or maybe it was kindergarten. I don't remember anymore, but it was very young children. There was 27 children in that school class. He went in there with a gun and killed all of them. This is in Scotland. And it shook the world at the time. I don't know if any of you remember it, but I won't forget it, and I'll tell you why I won't forget it. We came back, and everybody, by the time we got back to the Hogan, had heard it, because we had a double wide mobile home where all my people stayed, and they had beds and rooms and stuff like that. So they saw it on TV. So when we got back in, I said, we got to talk about this. And you could just tell, looking at every face, they were crying. Every one of them. I mean, when you have that many children slaughtered, and I looked at them and I said, hey, welcome to my world. Welcome to the world of being a shaman. I said, we have to go over there. And I had already taught them how to go in on a mass casualty event, to go in, and we were talking about this. This is not something that they had done. Okay. This is strictly, book learning for them. But this thing turned from book learning into a horrible, horrible, time for them, because they were going to be getting hit with the worst kind of things that I see and that I have to work with, and working with the perpetrator who did it, and working with the same level of love and compassion. So I told him, I said, we're going to have to go there. And I said, our job is to find a child. They're going to be totally in shock and trauma and screaming and crying and dying, or they're dead and they don't know where they're at. When you are killed in an accident like that, okay, or in an automobile or truck accident, or where you die suddenly and you don't have time for everything energetically to get ready to help you move through the levels that you have to when you pass over, okay, you go into shock. And what happens in mass casualty events, whether they're today or they're somewhere in history, is that because of the shock, they lose the piece or pieces, and they're stuck there because they are enwrapped and enveloped in the shock, and they can't get out of it by themselves. So they're trapped, and they go through and they play it over and over and over again. It's one of the horriblest things I can think of as a nightmare. And one of my jobs is to teach them how to release people who have been in a mass casualty event, and create an opening into the fourth dimension, so to free them if they want to go. And believe me, I've never seen one of them not want to go. Nobody got left behind. They all wanted to leave. And when they go over the Rainbow Bridge, they're literally going into the fourth dimension, where there is incredible help to help them through this shock and trauma, and to heal them and get rid of it so that they're back to their normal soul, if you will. So I told him, I said, you better stop crying. I said, we're not doing them any good. I said, there's going to be help from around the world, from different shamans who heard this. And by the time we went over there, and I was standing back and watching my people, because I knew how hard this was going to be for them. They were all women. They were all mothers. They all had children. And to walk into a schoolroom that's splattered with blood, and the windows, in the ceiling, in all four directions of the walls. It's just grisly. And they had to go over and go to the astral body of one of the children and be there and hold them and tell them it's all right, and to just keep talking with them and holding them and saying, you're all right. It's going to be over here in a minute. We're going to take you to a safe place. You're going to be okay. And that was our job. And there was probably 15 other shamans besides mine that were there working with the astral bodies of these children, because when you're shot or killed, your astral body comes out and there's a silver cord between you and your heart in the solar plexus with the astral body. And the astral body, once it's cut, will hang around because it's in shock too, and it doesn't want to leave where it lived in your body for X amount of years. So you have a lot of things going on a lot of different levels, all at the same time. And on top of that, you have to be thinking clearly about, okay, what's my next step? What do I got to do? You have to listen to the child, and you have to say the right things, and you have to be there, and you have to be the mother in that particular event, or the father, because we had male shamans there too who knew what the hell they were doing too. And I was so glad to see them, because there's no way 6 of us could take care of 27. So that was their welcome. And by the time we got back, it was probably an hour later. And I called them back and I said, and they had all taken these children to, most people call it heaven. To us, it's the light world. But they got them all over. They got them to the light world, where there was an incredible amount of spirit guides and teachers and healers over there to take care of each one of them, and to continue to start to reduce that shock and trauma and get rid of it. So that was their welcome. And by the time I called them back with my 250-year-old Tibetan drum that came out of a lamasery in Tibet that was given to me many, many years ago, it was after the Chinese had gone into Tibet and was destroying all of the sacred things that were there that the Tibetans used in their healing. And this particular drum was a Bonpo drum. And before the Tibetans ever became Buddhists, they were a Bonpo shamanic society. And when the Buddhism came in, they brought it in and welcomed and made it a part. But the Bonpo, the shamanic part of them, has never been pushed aside or destroyed or anything like that. They work together even to this day. But this particular lamasery in Tibet, there was a person in Sedona, Arizona, whose family was Tibetan, who had gotten out of China and then moved here, who had a store in Sedona, Arizona. And one of my friends, she was not a student of mine, but she was a good friend. She was a reverend. She didn't believe in God. She believed in the goddess. Okay. She had gone with her dream group up to Sedona to show them what it was like, sort of a vacation for all of them. And I didn't go because I had too much work to do. And she came back to me later and she said, I went into that store, and she said, I looked up on that wall, and she said, high up on the wall was this Tibetan Bonpo drum. She had been born in Burma and grew up in the Himalayas of India next to Pakistan. And so she knew a lot about the Tibetans. And she's an incredible woman. And I'm glad she's my friend. She's taught me a lot. But she said, I took one look at that drum, and she said, my people said, you have to have this drum. And she says, you need to come here and see it. So they came back. She told me, we drove back up, and I walked in and I looked at that, and I thought, I've used this drum before. It was my drum. And the Tibetan people that were behind the display cases next to the cash register were looking at me really oddly. And that's because they were clairvoyant. And they were looking at my aura, and they were looking at me, and they were looking at the drum and then looking at me. And the uncle who had retrieved the drum several years earlier and sneaked it out of Tibet into India, he got a 12-foot ladder. He climbed up, he brought the drum down, and he handed it to me. He says, "This is your drum." And I said, "Yes, it is." And so we paid him the money, and I left with the drum, which I have to this day. And this is the drum that is used to sending people out of their astral body out to the other dimensions to do the shamanic work. It knows what to do too. I just happen to have the Hogan over vortex, which helps also. So all of this, all of my students get what I call Energy Anatomy 101. And that is the basics. And we're now going to go back into the PowerPoint here. Is your foundation. And from this foundation, there isn't anything you can't do that you want to do that has to do with the tools that we have in the right hemisphere of our brain, period. It's all there. It's not for anyone special. You all can do it. I wasn't born clairvoyant. My father had a way because he had been trained the same way. He was an 11th generation medicine person, and I was chosen to be the 12th one in my generation because a child from each generation was chosen and trained. So what I'm teaching you here today is the absolute foundation to anything you want to do. And I will tell you straight up that all of you, unless you're clairvoyant and you already know all this stuff and you're bored as hell for being here, and sorry that you are, you are only using 50% of your life. You're only living 50% of your life. That 50% is what you can see with these two eyes, okay? There happens to be a third one here. It is your brow chakra. It is the third eye. We all have it. It's attached to the right hemisphere. All these tools, all that, those skill sets are there for you to use if that's what you want to do. And I'm sure some of you are pretty advanced in some different ways, okay? And we'll talk about those at the other end when we have our chat box time. But everything I'm presenting here is what I was presented with, nothing more, nothing less. So the other 50% is what you don't see. If you are not using any skill sets out of the right hemisphere, you are what I call a 50% person. You're paying your bills, you're going to work, you're answering the phone, you're doing dinner, you're taking care of children, taking care of the dog. That's your 50% life. But you don't know what else is going on that you really need to know about that will not only help you, but it will help the situation or the person or the group, okay? And that's the other 50%. It's the unseen. Just because it's unseen doesn't mean it isn't there and it isn't real. Your quantum physicists and your quantum mechanics guys, most of them are guys, few women in there, but women are mystics. Males are left brain mental dominant. And did you know that your left brain does exactly that? It's your grocery store list part of your brain. That's what the left hemisphere is. It's for organization. It's for getting your ducks in a row. It's for thinking about what do you want to build here in the third dimension. That's it. It's third dimension only. I can't think. I would be in prison if that was knowing what I know and knowing what I do. So this is your schematic. This is your blueprint for the rest of your life. You don't need to play with it. You don't need to change it. It works just fine the way it is. And it's not me saying that. It's what metaphysicians throughout our history here in 3D have said, as well as my teachers on the other side have also said. And let me say this, that as I present this to you, if you don't like it or it doesn't feel right to you, that's fine. That means that you've brought something else in that you've been working on in that 50% of the unseen. And you may be conscious about it and probably aren't, but you may be. Your subconscious, you may have dreams about it and things like that. Or you've brought in a system that you used to work with in another incarnation and you still know about it. Well, use that instead. I don't care. There's many roads to Rome. This is one of them. This is my road. This is what I was taught and trained to do. So with that said, this graphic is one from Deposit Photos that I paid for. And what it's showing is the auras. There are actually 9 layers to the aura. And I'm just going to breeze by them really quickly just to kind of get you pulled into understanding what you're looking at. Our aura is egg-shaped. It is over our heads and it is beneath the soles of our feet. And auras have 9 fields in them. And it's constantly moving because it's energy, but each layer, and this is something that we'll get into in the next session that Eugenie and I are going to talk about. But each layer has its own vibration, its own color, and its own ability to deal with a chakra. The chakras look like funnels, but they look like funnels front and back. They're hooked up to each other. You have your crown chakra with your root chakra. You have your brow chakra front and back. You have your throat chakra front and back. Heart, same. The sacral or the navel, the same. And each one of these fields feeds a particular chakra to make sure everything's going okay. All right. This is why it's called anatomy. It's energy movement. And if you didn't have an aura and if you didn't have chakras, you would not be here. You would be dead. Period. You cannot live down here without the energetics of what I'm showing you. And it's not me saying that, it's every metaphysician that has ever lived that said this. I'm merely, saying the same thing over and over again. So this is the 50% you don't see. But I mean, haven't all of you had the experience of being, let's say, in a subway or on a train or maybe a line of people that's in a grocery store, and sometimes you get near somebody, your aura is interacting with their aura, okay? And it's like, man, you want to get as far away from that person as you can. There's something about them that just sets off the fire alarms in you, or it's very destabilizing to you, or there's a threat to it, or there's a darkness to it, or there's a heaviness to it that you are picking up on because your auras are mixing and matching. I mean, can you imagine? I've been in the New York subways, and those people are crowded in there like sardines in a can, and all those auras are mixing. Oh my God. It's so anyway, this is what you're looking at. Okay, this is going to be your schematic for the rest of whatever I'm going to share with you, and just see how it calls you, or if it does or doesn't. And if it doesn't, that's fine. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to do it or anything else. Okay, so let's learn about our subtle bodies. I said just because you can't see your aura or your chakras doesn't mean they aren't there and they aren't working full time to keep you healthy. It's really important to understand this. They are electromagnetic, and this is where I'm going to fall off this wordage here, and I'm going to say something about electromagnetism, because the quantum scientists, quantum physicists especially, have found that everything is made out of electromagnetism, and it is the magnetism that creates our physical bodies and the organs in it and everything that you see in this world is because of the magnetism and the electric part of it. And we're talking molecules, we're talking atoms. You can't see them, and I know that they're trying, they do have some very highly created microscopes, if you will, that can see these things. But unfortunately, they don't have the kinds of instruments or machines that they need to simply hold it out and start with your ninth layer out and hold it out there and see what the reading is as far as the vibrational frequency is, and then come into the eighth layer and the seventh and the sixth and so on. They can do the same thing one of these days with all of our chakras, front and back. Okay. And just a little hint here, your chakras in the front are about your desire. The ones that are in your back, that's your will. And that is the plan that you came in to do. So just remember that, will and desire. And which one wins out? It better be the will, because the desire can lead you off into some, woods and stuff that aren't going to be, they'll probably be pretty painful, and you'll learn things from them. But that's part of why we're down here. We learn by making mistakes. So electromagnetic, just as our red blood cells or every other part of our body and its parts, the physical body is all electromagnetic. The other half, the 50%, which is fourth dimension plus, you cannot see with your two eyes. And I said these two are intertwined pieces of anatomy in our invisible energy body with our visible one. That keeps us healthy and alive. And I said the invisible parts are also called subtle bodies. They're so subtle you can't see them. But I don't know a woman alive who doesn't have a really good heart intuition, feeling, sensing, because they're always using the right hemisphere of their brain anyway, whether they know it or not. The intuition keeps us alive, literally and figuratively. So we have a step up on men that way. That's just one of many ways. And most people cannot see these subtle bodies, although later on I'm going to teach people how to see the etheric body, which is the first layer off your body here. It's the glove that fits around us that keeps us healthy so that the bacteria and the viruses can't get us, can't hit us. So, and I said, just because they're subtle bodies doesn't mean they aren't important. I said, you owe your existence to them. And I said, without them being in place, we would die. And I said, in fact, if you didn't have the egg-shaped aura that is composed of 9 fields of different vibrational energy around you, you will not exist. I said, that is how important that what you don't see is equally necessary in order for us to live fully here in this 3D world. And some of the things I say here is, even though you can't see electricity, right? You can't see it unless it's a lightning bolt. I've been hit twice by them. You don't see electricity. I said it lights up your home at night and powers so many other household and business things that we use every day. A stove, a cell phone, an internet, a washer, a dryer, charging an electric car. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's there. Also, you can't see gravity, but you sure as hell have 2 feet on the ground, don't you? So this is, you need to take your mind and the mindset of what you were taught. Okay. And you need to begin to expand and maybe look at it a little differently at another angle than what you thought you know about who you are. So this is why we're doing this. Now, I'm showing you a female and a male here with their auras, and this is pretty much what they look like. They're constant, the different energies and everything are constantly swirling around us, not fast, but it's moving, and the different colors and things, because each layer has its own color. The prettiest one, the rainbow colored one, is our astral body, which I'll get into next time. But it's constantly moving around us. If you saw it, some auras are very beautiful. Some auras are very small and tight, and that's not a good thing, and I'll get into that later. Some are large. I would say on average for the person who is asleep, and in 50% of this world, their auras are usually about 6 to 7 feet away from their bodies, and this includes all 9 fields. Somebody who is working, let's say you do meditation. Okay, meditation is a really good thing to do. Number one, I highly recommend it. I don't do meditation, but I do something else that's similar to it. And the meditation actually connects directly into your right hemisphere where all your skill set and tools are at. And as you meditate, you're strengthening that connection with this toolbox, this treasure chest that's in there, just waiting to be used. So meditation is a good thing. And that's something everybody pretty much knows what that means. Okay, the aura. I said everyone has an aura. Every living thing has one, including the rocks, including the caterpillars, including the trees, including the water. Everything has an aura, and nothing can survive in our 3D world without it. I said you were born with it around you like a protective eggshell that holds the energy that keeps you alive. And I said today we have a few instruments that can note the electromagnetic charge that the body gives off, but there is none that can truly map out yet our auric fields and to know the vibrational energy of each layer or the chakras themselves. Altogether, there is one final frequency that it will vibrate at. And for example, Mother Earth's auric vibration is 8 hertz. And by the way, our heart vibrates at 8 hertz. What a phenomena to know. Isn't that wonderful? We're one. We beat at the same rate. She loves us. She's our real mother. We're her children. Everything is her children, including the caterpillar, including the tick, including the birds, the fish, the snakes, everything. They're all her children. We're her children. So a person's soul age and how many incarnations they have had, their aura will vibrate potentially either lower or higher, depending upon what's going on in their life and what path they've chosen and how far along they are on it. And I said the higher the vibration of a person's aura, the more quote unquote spiritual they are, working from their heart with compassion for all beings. Those are the people I attract. And that's, you always attract your own kind, period. So the 4 or 5 of you that are sitting here, you're very spiritual, you're very heart connected, you're very compassionate. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be among you. Young souls, by the way, are incarnating, have a much lower vibration. I said people who are incarnated in disease, their aura is going to look faded or diluted, less color, have holes or tears in one or more of the layers, and movement in it, which you don't want. I said the etheric layer, and I said more on this later, is thin, perhaps 1 inch thick to 4 inches thick. And if it's depressed in a particular area of this first field, it usually means that there's pain in that area or something's going wrong in that area. And that's the first place you pick it up is in the etheric. And there is a way to see the etheric with your 2 eyes. And I will be teaching that, but not this time. Most people's etherics are 3 to 4 inches thick when healthy. An aura consists of 9 different fields or layers that are next to one another. And each layer has a specific function to keep you healthy and alive. Each layer has a name and a function that is associated with one of our chakras. And when I say one of our chakras, I'm meaning front and back, okay? Because they're connected. They're like 2 funnels at the other end, but they're connected. So that's one chakra to me. I know there's 2 of them. I don't want to get into that. Just take my word for it, okay? It's always the men that ask me about this, okay? Oh, well, that's not one. I see 2. Yeah, but they're connected. It's one. So for this class presentation, I will discuss the first 5 field or layers to keep it simple and understandable so that you see the connection between the auric layers and the attached chakras with your physical body. If you are a psychic or clairvoyant, you can see another person's aura. Some will see a little bit of it, Others may see a lot of it. They may see a particular color of a particular field, and that's all they see until they open up and begin to see more and more over time. It usually doesn't happen that you see everything all at once. That's not how it goes. It takes months, years for this stuff to develop. At least it did in me. And I said, let's see, okay. On the next slide, I'll show you examples of what they see. Also, Carillion photography was created in 1939 by Carillion, and it can actually see the aura and its colors. Guy was way ahead of his time. Okay, so let's talk about the etheric field. This is the most important field, and this is the one that you can see with some training. I said, we're going to spend some time on this layer, and you'll see why. I said, first, there is a book I'd highly recommend if you want to sink your teeth into energy anatomy beyond the simplicity of what I'm teaching you. It's called Hands of Light, and it's by Barbara Ann Brennan, and that's Brennan. Her book is on Amazon, and I say here she's a clairvoyant and author, has the best books on energy anatomy for the 21st century so far. What she sees, you can believe everything in it. So if you really want to dig into this, get her book. She's got, I think, 4 or 5 books. You'll end up buying all of them if you really want to get into this anatomy at that level. I'm so glad that she's on the planet, and I'm so glad that she's here. Because as a shaman, you see, she's a healer. She's a hands-on healer. I'm not a hands-on healer. My mother was a hands-on healer, but I'm not. I'm a shaman. We don't do this stuff, okay? I'm not trained up in it. I know a lot about it because my mother was one, and I can tell that what my mother knew and what Barbara Brennan is presenting in her book are exactly the same. So, but I am not trained in it, nor am I a hands-on healer. That doesn't work for me this lifetime. That's not what I need. So the main operating area of a shaman is the etheric and the astral layer fields. When I go in to do a journey, normally that's where I'm looking. I'm looking at the etheric, I'm looking at the astral. That's the first and second layers off the body. The astral field is very colorful. The etheric field is either a light gray or a light blue, depending. More advanced people who are spiritually advanced have a light blue etheric, but those that aren't as advanced have a very light gray color to it. And either one's fine. You know, we're not competitive. And I said that during the extraction phase, if needed, I or my chief shamanic guide would sometimes perform surgery to remove an ancient weapon from one or more of the fields. I said I would use a feather and cut surgically and use a quartz crystal for more delicate work to clean up the positive ions, the dross, the etheric dross, or the trauma that looks like a little gray, fuzzy, cottony cloud hanging around it. And I said from that area of the wound where the weapon had been located at, but that we took it out. And I said, I also have shamanic spirit guides who would assist me, or they would take on more complex medical procedures that had to be done in either of these 2 fields or any other layer of any field in someone's aura. And many times a surgical team of shaman guides who are very skilled would come in and perform the necessary delicate extraction of a weapon, especially after removal, and there was a tear or a hole in the etheric field or the other fields where it's leaking energy out that had to be sealed and closed. And I said, below is what the etheric looks like. The color is usually light gray or a pale bluish looking. And this is quite microscopically enlarged for you to see it, but you can still see it even with your eyes. It's always a cross hatching, always a cross hatching. And the cross-hatching lines themselves are a little darker gray than the lighter gray under it. The etheric is constantly pulsing, just like a heart was there, and it's pulsing energy all the time, and it's moving. It's a living being that we wear. And I said, I would watch these surgeries with great awe and interest. I said, the most important work is that the organs always required a surgical specialty shaman team to do it. I said, for instance, heart surgery or replacement of your kidney for the dying of the physical kidney and replaced with an astral kidney instead. I would never take on something like this, but these surgical teams are the best. And their surgery would take a minute or two at the most, even in advanced cases. And wouldn't our 3D surgeons just love that instead of being in the surgery op for 5 or 10 hours doing it? And I said the person always survived and thrived afterwards. And I said instead of scalpels, they use frequency of light, almost like a laser. They use sound, they use colors, and whatever they needed would be selected at that time. But I would watch this because it was like watching a miracle happen in front of my eyes. I was always amazed by it, and I was humbled by it to understand that, you know, our medicine here in this 3D is so prehistoric, it's not even funny. Be that as it may. So I said to seal or suture an area after the operation was complete, the surgery spirit guide would simply open her or his hand and gently, about an inch away from the surgical area, would seal it closed. And because they were sending energy from their hand into that aura, into that layer, and they knew exactly what they needed to do in that layer to get it done and to seal it up. And I said one thing really stood out to me is that the web-like, or what I call a fishnet, that surrounds our human body, it's diamond-shaped webbing, reminding me of two triangles butting up against one another. And it stretched, moved as light continually pulsed throughout the field with great regularity. And as we moved, stretched, squatted, ran, or twisted, the elastic band etheric webbing was very flexible to whatever we did, whatever we were doing. And that's how it works. And when you get good enough and you can start seeing the etheric field, then you can later on, you'll be able to see it in motion or around a person. And we'll get into that at another time. I said, and I put this graphic down here. This is a leg in a cast. I know it's a broken bone. Okay. It's the best I could do. But I said, this leg is in a cast, but I thought I would give you an idea of what the etheric webbing looked like, sort of. You have to use your imagination. And I said, this is a body energy garment. That is what the etheric is. It is a glove, a seamless glove that has no opening, no end or beginning, that is around our physical body in every possible way. And I said it is around each toe, finger, ear, around our heads, beneath the soles of our feet, everywhere. I said there are no breaks in this layer. If it is, or you see a break, then it can cause physical, mental, or emotional issues. Now, I said we can rip, tear, or puncture our etheric glove. I always call the etheric a glove around our physical body. If we are in an accident, we fall, we trip, or someone cuts us with a knife, we're shot with a bullet or clubbed. I said usually if it's not too damaged, the etheric will heal itself and close up the hole, the slice, or the puncture into it. It has an amazing resilience and can self-heal with the help of our chief guide. More on that later. We call it chief guide the CG. If the injury to the etheric is bad enough and it can't self-heal, then energy starts leaking out in that area. Sometimes it's a slow leak, much like a balloon slowly deflating. Other times it's like a full-blown hemorrhage. But what it is losing is the prana, and some call this manna from heaven, and it's also known by many other names. Energy which is drawn in by our chakras, and I said more on this later, to feed the food of the prana into the etheric so I can move it around as it pleases to the other areas where it's needed, and that's the chakras. Without prana, which is energy food for the energy anatomy, we would die. When we are sick, our etheric body in certain areas will thin out, or it will swell and bulge. There's a change in color to the etheric, and it does not look normal once you have seen a healthy, normal etheric on several people. You also see them on animals, okay, trees. Everybody has one. And I said, instead of being 2 to 4 inches thick, the average is 3 inches, for a normal, healthy etheric. And I said, if something's going on, the etheric will dip down in the area that is affected. If it's the flu, for example, around your chest, if it's respiratory kind of flu, that area is depressed to 1 to 1.5 inches, showing that it is where the physical issue is located. If it is digestive flu with vomiting, loss of fluids, then around your solar plexus chakra, where your physical stomach is located, will become depressed. Or a flu that involves your sinuses and you have a splitting headache, that area of the etheric will be depressed. Now, here's some graphics made by my niece, Sherry, to illustrate. She is a graphic artist, and I asked her to do these, bless her heart. So I want to thank her for it. To illustrate what I'm talking about, I said, later I'll discuss and teach you how to see the etheric field of another person, plant, animal, tree, or rock. I said, more on this after you grasp and understand how important the etheric field is to our life. Okay, so these illustrations are simple, but they will show you what to look for. The etheric, when healthy, is usually 2 inches or even 4 inches thick. When there is pain or an ache, or you're not feeling good, you can see where it's at. It's showing up in your etheric field. They don't even have to tell you they got a headache. You can look at it and see that there's a depression there, and then you can say, do you have a headache? And you're like, well, how do you know? Well, because you can see it. So anyway, if you do a shamanic work, you need to see this, or if you're doing hands-on healing or crystal healing, you can either see it clairvoyantly or you can feel it. You can actually feel the etheric. It has a different temperature than your physical body. And it will cool down as you run this is one of the things that Oceana Festival taught me, because I took 3 years of training with her in gym and crystal healing. She was an Apache Mohican medicine woman, and she was known on Turtle Island, which Native Americans called Canada and the United States Turtle Island. That was their name for it. It still is to this day. That if you run your hand about 2 inches above the physical, and you have a small substation, electrical substation chakra right here in the center of each of your palms. Okay, you also have 2 in the bottom of your soles of your feet too. You have lots of little chakras, with the major ones being the big colorful ones down your midline. Okay, but you can actually, I always use my left hand, because if you draw a midline down the middle of our body, the left hand side draws the energy into the auras, and it's feminine. The right hand side, from the midline to the right, sends energy out to somebody else. So when I am doing crystal healing, I'm using my left hand and I'm running it about 2 inches above a person's etheric layer, and I'm feeling the energy of it. And if there's a dip, I can feel it. If there's a coolness or a coldness to it, I can feel it. Or if it's really hot and it's ballooned out and it's like a big inflammation, you can feel that heat, and you can feel how high it goes and everything else, so that you can get your crystal in there and you can take out what's going on. And you can also use a feather to smooth out if there's other issues. You can either smooth out, if it isn't too big of a surgery to do, with a feather, and get the etheric to bind back together again like it should. Because when you're crystal healing, your intent is to heal that, to put that energy through you. It comes through you, by the way. It doesn't come from you. If you do that, you're going to die sooner or later. You never give your own energy away. But as it comes through you, then that energy, you can use a feather just to seamlessly bring that etheric that was opened up, or it has a puncture, or it has a blowout somewhere, and smooth it over, bring it together, seal it, and they're fine. And the pain stops. That's the biggest thing. The person is amazed by it. Oh, I don't feel any pain there anymore. No, you shouldn't. Glad to hear that. This is all energy work. So anyway, I said, all you have to do is use your hands, palm down, forward to the person's etheric field. And I said, you enter gently. Now, this is really important because, you've got 9 fields. And when you come in with your physical hands and with the intent, again, a heart intent, compassion, you're there to help them relieve some pain or suffering. You don't jam your hands in there. This is why I probably don't have too many men who are my students, because men just go, oh, okay, here's this. If you put that in, it's like a supersonic jet cutting through about 9 different fields to get to where it is. And it's like, no, everything is gentle, everything is quiet. And what you'd want to do is you want to start up here and then just come down very slowly and gently through the fields, and you will not cause a ripple, because your intent is that you are becoming a tube through which the healing energy that they're going to allow this person, because you don't figure this one out. You're just there as a tube to do it, to send that energy from them down through you to this person. So if you do that, do it very gently and come in very quietly. You don't want any sounds or any interruptions or other people talking or having a radio on or whatever. It should be quiet, because if you're quiet, that means that you're probably going to pick up some intuition, or you may even hear somebody tell you something, okay? Like I do. I get told a lot of things. And so this is what we do as shamans. We can do this. We can do the simple, easy stuff, the bruises, the cuts, the falls, but if it's broken and stuff like that, we can still do some help, but then we're moving into asking a surgery team come in to look at it and to take care of it on another dimension level for that person. So, and I said, palms down toward the person's etheric field, you enter it gently and slowly in their aura. And I said, you move your hands around their head. You come down like this, and then you're going to just bring your hands down on the sides of the head and down on the shoulders and through the arms. And then you're actually going to move your position so that you're on, you're doing this the other ways too, so that you can get a full thing of it. I have when I teach crystal healing, I have a form that people use that shows the anatomy, both frontal and side, so that as you pick up things, you can circle it and show where it's at, so that because you won't remember all the places that you find heat or cold or dips and doodles. So you absolutely need this, but that's getting way ahead of ourselves. Okay. And I said, when you use your hands on the head, I said, if they have a headache, to find out where it's at. And then you can use a quartz crystal to remove the dark energy, and the headache is gone. And as you're smoothing out that area, after you've removed the orange area, which is where the pain is at, or where the swelling's at, or where they're suffering at, is that you use the flat of the crystal, the sea face that's flat, and you just move that over it in just very soft, gentle ways, just right over that area that had this depression in it. So anyway, I said hands-on healers use different techniques, as do shamans, but I said they all work. Okay. And I said the illustration is simple. Let's see. I thought I moved that. Okay, there's sinuses. All right. I said another example of a depressed etheric, a sinus infection or a cold in a facial area. Next time you get a sinus infection, folks, okay, you're going to know what to do here. And you can even use the crystal, the healing crystal on yourself. You can move it and get rid of it also and clear the area energetically. You don't have to take aspirin or ibuprofen or suffer with it. But again, this is getting advanced and this is getting into some other areas. But I want to give you a feeling here of some of the things we can do to help people. I said, the more you see the etheric, the more you will see. And as an example, the orange area here in this one indicates the infection or the involvement in the sinuses. I said, it looks like a transparent light gray, sometimes diffused or fuzzy looking area. When there's a lot of pain, you're going to see a darkness, a dark gray cloud around the area. The lighter gray it tells me that there's less pain than it is when it's dark. And I can just tell by looking at that how much pain they are in. And if it's black, then they are in very, very bad pain. Okay, and I said the deeper the color, the more intense the pain and the symptoms the person feels. I said the lighter the color, the less pain and pressure that the person feels. And by the way, I can if Eugenie wants, I can send her copies of these illustrations if you want them. And we will, she can send them out to you if that's what you want. Okay. And that way you have a show and tell because there's a lot of information I'm dropping here and you're not gonna absorb it all. Okay. But some show and tell, some visuals are always good to help us along. And I said here in this particular illustration, someone has asthma, COPD, or an upper respiratory cold or cough. Could be a viral flu like COVID. It always lands in your chest, which involves the frontal throat area as well as the lung area. And by the way, that lung area is front and back. I didn't want her to put an orange one on this side. I just thought that, you assume because you know anatomy that the lungs are in the center of your body, and so both sides are involved. But if you haven't had medical anatomy, you don't know that. But basically, the lungs are in the center of the body, and it's going to be front and back both. And the etheric on both the front of the body and the back of the body is going to be, pulled in, just as they're showing it here. So I said, if both are involved, the entire chest area is involved. I said, the gray mass will show you exactly where the issue and the symptoms are located. I said, there's another way to sense the depression in the etheric. I said, you can open your hands, palm down. Remember, you got these two chakras here. About 6 inches off the person's body, you may feel heat, cold, itching, texture, or some other sign that your palms are picking up on the areas that you need to know about and where they're located. And I said, if you have a crystal, it's easy enough to remove it, but that means that you have to have advanced crystal training to know how to do it. And what's interesting here, why is this important? When you have a baby that can't talk, you can look at that baby's etheric and it's crying and it's whining and it's got, a lot of whining or moving around and they're not happy. You can look at their aura and you can see where the issue is at. Is it stomach? Are they having colic, for instance? Well, you know where colic's at. So you can look there. And if that's not there, then be looking other places. Maybe they have to poop and it's a hard poop and they can't get it out and it's hurting their rectum. You can look and see. So at least you can know where your baby or your child who may not be talking yet or being able to talk at that level with you, you can see it. This is the easiest layer of all to see. And there is no reason why anyone can't do it because they can. Okay, how to see what is not there. I said, as a young child, I would be laying on the grass on my belly, my hands beneath my chin, my eyes unfocused, just enjoying the warmth of the sun, the warm breeze, and I would see these circular transparent circles or globules wafting around. They were about 1/5 the size of a pinhead. And I said, and some were individuals floating here and there, and others were a small cluster or clinging to one another in a longish thread composed of nothing but these little tiny circles. And I said, all I had to do was unfocus my eyes on a sunny day. And I said, don't look at the sun. Look away from the sun and watch the wind push them hither, thither, and yon. And I said, I called it prana, which is food for the auric fields. And the molecules of the prana would be sucked into our chakras. The chakras are always moving. They're always sucking stuff in and they're always sending stuff out. And it would depend upon the particular frequency of the particular chakra that is whirling around, sucking and drawing these globules into it and then transferring it to a field which was fed to the chakra. And as a whole, all 9 fields would resonate and vibrate at an overall speed and frequency as this feeding, this pulling in of this energy was going on and serving the human body. So I'd like to show you how to see it. And I said it would look like an invisible blanket of clear or light gray transparency. You may or may not be able to pick up light blue. Just depends upon the person. I said, my parents' shoulders and head as a young child. And I said, what I was seeing was the etheric field. I said, the more I unfocused my eyes and would look off the person's right or left shoulder or at the top of their head, all right, I would see that layer. And I said, later, I could see the fishnet around any part of the person's body. Then I began to see spots of darkness or grayness or sometimes larger areas on people's bodies. And I said, I learned over time that these were health issues, either acute or chronic. And I said, much later in life, I trained with Oceana Fastwolf. And I said, she taught us gemstones and in particular, charging water technique and how to use a quartz crystal to remove bad energy from the etheric field of a person, an animal, plant, a tree, etc. And I said, every living thing on this earth has an aura, therefore an etheric field. And I said, to see a person or animal or tree or whatever you want to look at, I said, choose it and then you must ground yourself. The first thing you do before you ever do any of this stuff is ground yourself. And I said, I have a free Google Doc and it's here. Maybe if you could, Eugenie, could you put that into the chat box for them, please? Thank you. I said about 75% of the population do not have their astral body locked in. This is the other big one. To their physical form, and if they aren't grounded, you can't do this type of energy work that I'm talking about. You'll get nowhere. I said, if you are grounded, it is easier for you to see the etheric field. The shoulder or head are the best place to start. And once you can see it clearly, by unfocusing your eyes, and don't look at the shoulder, look, and the background should be a neutral background, not a bright color, maybe white, maybe light gray, something like that. It's hard to do it with a dark because then you have to have so much light on the person that it actually kind of fades out the etheric and you can't see it. So use like a light blue or a light gray or a very pale green, and just look past the person's shoulder and you'll see it. It'll start coming into focus and you'll see a layer there. Some people it's 1.5 to 2 inches and others have it up 4 inches here. I mean, it's really thick and healthy. And once you start seeing it here, then what you do is you train yourself. You go and you do this every day and you unfocus and you look and you'll see more and more of it as you open up the psychic skill set for that up here in your right hemisphere of your brain. This all has a step-by-step to it. So however much or little you want to see it is how much time you will put into learning how to do it. Because I had to do it, so why shouldn't you? And I said about 75% of the population do not have their astral body, what we call locked in to their physical form. And if you aren't grounded, you can't do this type of energy work. If you are grounded, it is easier for you to see the etheric. And I said at first, if you try too hard, okay, usually the first 2 or 3 times you're really tense and you're really excited and you really want to see it. And then you overstress yourself and you can't see it. You have to be relaxed when you do this stuff. You can't be stressed out. You have to be grounded too. And if you aren't grounded, you aren't going to see a damn thing. Or if you do, you're not going to see enough of it to give you the information that you're seeking to figure out what's going on in that area of that person's body. So I said, once you can see it clearly, note the color of it. And I said, either transparent light gray or light blue. And I said, at first, you may get a headache out of trying it. Don't stare or focus directly on it, or you won't see it. The more relaxed you are, the sooner it will happen. You can look at your dog's head or cat or body when they're sleeping, and you can see a fairly easily seen etheric line all around their body. It's really beautiful. And I said, learning metaphysics means patience, lots of trial and error, but never doubt that you can't do it because you can. And I said, all humans have a third eye. There's not one that doesn't. So, how to see the etheric field too? I said it takes patience, time, and practice. I said you're opening up your brow chakra or third eye, which you can see the invisible realms around us. Don't lose hope. Most people take about 30 days to see a portion of the etheric field on a person, tree, or animal. And I said the more frustrated you become, the more angry or feeling hopeless, or you say you can't do it, the much longer and more practice it will take. And I said, always ground yourself before starting. And I said, the etheric field is the only field you can actually see with your own 2 eyes. All the rest can be seen when you utilize your third eye or the brow chakra. And I said, practice every day when you aren't stressed out, anxious, angry, or do other human emotions that will take away the concentration you need and this sense of peace and being whole or being in harmony with yourself, that you need to do this. And I said, be patient with yourself. Do it when you're relaxed. Keep a daily journal and the time you practice. And my serious 2 cents worth on this is 5 to 10 minutes at the most. You don't want to do it any longer than that. You'll get a headache. So stop. I said, once you're able to see it, I said, use the same person to look off their shoulder or around the top of their head. See if you see more details. How thick is the etheric layer? Always write down an approximation of it. And I said, on a given day, is it thicker? Is it thinner? Is it slightly or deeply depressed? It can also bubble up like a bubble. Okay. And I said, has the color of the field changed? If so, note it in your journal and do lots of illustrations for yourself. Always carry a pack of colored pencils. That is of enormous help. Okay, so this is Chakra Man. This is one of my drawings. I'm not a graphic artist, as you can tell, but I think that it kind of gets the idea across that I wanted, which is all I care about. And I've colored the chakras the colors that they really are. And I said, this ends class 1 on Energy Anatomy 101. I said, it is important to ground yourself right after rising in the morning. I said, without being grounded 24 hours a day, you will be unable to attain the dream or goals you want to achieve when it comes to Energy 101. And I said, why? I said, because the energy from Mother Earth moves up through the 2 chakras in our soles of our feet. Remember, I told you earlier how we have 2 little electric substations right here in the center of each of our palms? Well, we have the same thing in our soles, and they're about that big too. Okay, right in the center of the foot, each foot. So I said she feeds our aura also. The aura is used in 2 different ways. From the cosmos, where prana or energy food for all life is sucked into the fields of our aura via our chakras, will be in the next session. And our second source of food is Mother Earth's energy, which is brought up into the root chakra, which is the red one here that's pointing down toward the feet. It's at the end of our tailbone and our spinal column. It's the lumbar area of our spinal area. And I said it's distributed into our etheric field. We need not only the energy of the prana that's pulled in by the fields and the chakras of our body, but we also need absolutely the energy of Mother Earth to come up through us, and she feeds us in a different way. And I said we need both to maintain health, harmony, balance. And I said there's a free handout of this graphic to all listeners, details to follow. So that's it. I could stop the share. Questions? I see everybody ran away except one.
No, two. Amy, our acreage is quite close to each other, and I saw her out by the guinea pigs and everything else. So I thought I'd turn her video off so she can feed all her animals. And it's 8:30 in the morning here now. And
Right,
the
I
others,
understand.
yeah, and the others were over in the UK, and it was getting past midnight, and I could see
Right,
their
and they're
eyes.
tired.
Yeah, I
Right,
could
yeah.
see they were getting close, and Rebecca was hanging in there until the bitter end. But I see
I
even
know.
she got really tired.
Well,
Eileen, can I just
we
firstly take a moment to acknowledge the beautiful information that you're sharing with us? And as you're sharing all this, I'm just so excited for our listeners around the world that's going to be listening to this. And, this is information that really we should be learning even at school. Like all of us should know this stuff. And here I am at 44 years old, and I don't know so much of the basics of all of this. And it's embarrassing. But I'm so glad that now, I found, I've started to learn this, because I just think of all the times in my life throughout, my 20s and my 30s where this type of information would have been life changing for me. So I really appreciate you sharing this with us. And I'm so happy for, our younger women and men around the world that are learning this. And I can't wait to go do this with my children as well, and to show them your slide and to get them to look at the auric fields of our animals. I've got two dogs sleeping here by my feet at the moment, but getting them to start doing this. And, you helped my daughter to start getting it, talking with one of her crystals. And this is the type of stuff that our children should be doing. I always say to them, I just feel if I can just get them to be in touch with their own intuition, I don't feel like I need to teach them anything else, because whatever comes across their path in this lifetime, if they have good intuition, they will always come back to that. So these sorts of, the grounding technique that you taught us in the previous episode, and now learning to read energy fields, that's all stuff that's it's stuff. It's real, it's actually real world things that we need to know. It should be
Yeah, well, I grew
basics.
up with this though. See,
Mm.
that's the thing. I grew up with this every day.
Ah,
Okay.
amazing.
And my mother used to say, what can you see the etheric on this tree? Because I knew what etheric was even at 5 years old. And I would look past it and I would see it. And she'd say, well, how thick is it? Because she could see it. She was totally
Mm.
clairvoyant, because she was testing me out. Okay. Because, kids like to please their mom and dad. So they go, oh, I see it. Yeah. They don't. Okay. But everywhere I walk, she'd pick up a rock and say, what does the etheric on this? Do you see any colors around this rock?
Mm.
Okay. Or a blade of grass or a flower. They all have this energy surrounding it, and it can tell you things that are important to you. So, yeah, and it's a lifelong type of thing. I mean, I didn't get to where I was at 77. I wasn't anything like that at age 5 or even age 30. So, but it's a slow progression of things. But when you've got the training behind you to begin with for the first 18 years of your life, um, you're well on your way. But the techniques that I'm going to share with you from now on are things that you can take home and you can do at the pace of how important or not important it is to you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Now, do you have any
yes,
questions in the
we've got a few. I might actually just ask Sarah to ask a question to you first, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah. Hi,
So,
Sarah.
hi, Eileen. Thanks so much. That was wonderful. Um,
Thank-
I just wanted to say, like, I have a slightly different, I guess, an introduction, and I have been working with the energies and things for a long time, but without a formal kind of teaching. It was more, I attended a spiritual ashram for many years, and we had a daily practice of tuning in and understanding the chakras and understanding the movement of our bodies. But my first question was, I have kind of quite a few, but Colin Griffith, and I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a UK homeopath, but he did a lecture once and he said that we have to learn to find the simillimum, not just in the tissues of the client that we're working with. And I took that at the time, and that just kind of went, oh yeah, that
Now,
really.
what was his name, Sarah? I'm sorry.
He said that we have to learn to find the simillimum, the homeopathic simillimum.
I understand that, but what is his name?
Oh, sorry, Colin Griffith.
Oh, okay. I know who he is. Okay.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. No problem. And so then I took this into my practice and started to tune in. So where is the remedy needed? Which body is this needed for?
Right. Good.
Yeah. And so tuning into that, but this is like something that intuitively I just started to do. And Colin talks about the ancestors and going into the ancestor, like almost prescribing for the ancestors. And I took this to prescribing for the different layers of the aura. But this is like I don't know if you have anything to say about that or any comments, because I just intuitively did this. I don't have a teacher. I don't have a foundation. It's just purely going there.
Right. Okay. So let's make this real nice and neat and tidy. Okay. From the time we're born until age 7, we are wide open clairvoyant. We see every field of the aura. We see all the colors. We see people who come up and talk to us, or animals who come up and talk to us. And you talk to your spirit guide. You have it all. And you also have a spirit guide, a chief spirit guide, who is with you at all times. And almost there's never been a time, I've heard this so often, that a mother will come up to me and with her 5-year-old child and say, well, Tommy keeps talking to this invisible friend. And I'm going, yes. And she says, is there something wrong with him? And I'm going, no. Well, why not? He's okay. I said, oh, he's more than okay. I said, that's his chief spirit guide for this lifetime. I said, and he sees him or her or it, it can be one of many things. It doesn't have to be human at all. It doesn't even have to be from this planet or this solar system or this universe. It is with this baby or this child. The problem is, and I see this in the United States, but I see it all over the world too, because we live in a patriarchal damned world, is that if you can't see it and you can't weigh it or measure it, it doesn't exist. Okay, that's the patriarchal mindset, period. End of story. Oh, well, I'm sorry, but that's the 50% of the story, and even it isn't the whole story. And I told her, I said, and I explained to her that everybody has a chief shamanic guide, and later on, when I give more of these talks, I'm going to actually take people through it. But it'll be a special thing that isn't for everybody, because you have to have the foundational buildup of the energy foundation to understand what is going on. And that way you don't have fears and you don't have misgivings, or you're worried about something. When you get told what it is, and it is a foundation, that's all you need. And you can build it any way you want after that. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, your parents didn't shut you down, okay? Or there wasn't a big hullabaloo about it to brand you with the fact that, well, what you saw, you made up, that's your imagination. It isn't real, okay? They didn't tell you that, I don't think. And if they did, you're an old enough soul that you've come in, you already know these things, and you should damn well trust them and run as fast as you can with them and blow it open. Be all you can be. You're not. I can tell it in your aura right now. Let that go. Really, really open up. Okay. And when it comes to who trained you and the different words we use on the same thing, okay, an aura is an aura, a chakra is an chakra. I don't care what the hell you call it. It makes no never mind to me. What I'm more interested in is that you get into it, hook, line, and sinker. You become it. You live it. It's not a piece and outside of you. You are it. And that's where you're at. You're still waffling, okay? I want you to just grab this and be it, okay? Then you're coming into full power as a woman. We're the only ones that have a womb. That's where our power is at. And when you go to your womb and you bring it in there and it just goes all the way through you, there isn't a person in this world that's going to tell you to change your mind or that you're crazy or, you belong in an insane asylum will die laughing. Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does. And you actually answered my next two questions already as well.
Oh, really?
You.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, keep doing what you're doing. I'd like to stay in touch with you. Seriously.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd
if
love
you
that.
want to.
Yeah.
I'm making an offer. If you don't want to, that's fine. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all.
No,
So,
I'd be happy for that. That was my next question. Thanks. All
funny
in a
thing.
neat little package. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like working with people like you that are half awake or they're half what I call half trained. You're awake. You were never shut down, but you're also an older soul, and because you've been doing this for lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes. This is not your first rodeo, honey. Not at all. Okay. So let's get you online and let's get you really, really working. Okay. On all cylinders of whatever the tools are that are in your right hemisphere that you want to use. Okay. Because we all have different things. My big tool is I'm a shaman. I'll always be one. That's my life path. That's my soul path. I'll never be anything but that. And I'm happy there. You have to be you need to know where you're at. That's what you have to get into. But there are definitely techniques I can give people like you, and I do give them to people like you, that is going to enhance and quicken and make it and ground it so you become it. You live it, you breathe it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Or you have no idea.
Yeah, okay. Careful what you ask for with Eileen.
That's right. Well, but it's all for your own good, right?
Yeah.
All
And
right.
it's for you to open up. Right now I see a bunch of little flower buds, but I want you to flower. I want you to open. I want you to just grab this and run with it. What appealed to you? What called to you? What didn't you like? You always move toward what calls you that feels good to you. Those are the tools that you're looking for.
Eileen, Amy has a question for you as well. She has 4 children, and
Oh boy, hi, Amy.
one at least, potentially all of them, but one of them definitely has some spiritual gifts. I think it'd be so it'll be interesting. But anyway, Amy, what was your question?
I'm kind of scared to ask now.
You should be.
I'm like, am I about to open Pandora's box and just be like, why did I do this to myself? But oh no,
you're not going to die from it, okay?
No. If anything, we'll live way more. Yes. So I've got 4 kids, and definitely at least 2 are seeing spirits, energies, whatever it might be. I don't know. So what's my best way of teaching my kids without, I guess, forcing it upon them, nurturing their gifts?
Okay. Well, let's start with the basic. The child is going to tell you and show you exactly what he or she is interested in. When I was growing up, like I said, my mother started taking me out to the mountains at 5 years old.
Yeah.
And she would watch me. And there were certain things that for instance, rocks and trees. I would go around hugging trees, or I tell her, I love this tree. It feels so good. Or I would find a rock, or I'd hear a rock. I'd hear they have high falsetto voices, like that. They drive you nuts. but when they know that you can hear them, you get the cacophony, you get the whole orchestra going, take me, somebody hears them. Okay. They want to go home with you. I used to go home with a sack of rocks every time that she took me out. And they were my friends. And I washed them, I took care of them, I talked to them, I heard them, and I loved their colors. And I put them on the windowsill, so they get sunlight and moonlight. Okay. I'm going to I have a lot of mothers who really are hurting for a child lesson plan on how to develop your child's spiritual side, your other 50%. And I'm working on that. It's on my plate. It's not up front yet, but it's there, and I'm going to do something about it because of the way that I was raised. My mother was raised the same way by her mother, and my grandmother raised my grandmother or mother. This carries down through a family line, and it isn't that you have to have different things every time. The same old things work just fine. And so the first thing I would ask you about your children is, what are they showing an interest in? What draws them?
They love their crystals and that. I think they get that from me. But yeah, anything pretty and shiny, sparkly.
But if you showed them how to use them, they just may well do that. Okay.
Yeah, they're very interested in my tarot cards and my guide cards too. So
okay,
yeah,
then
like
what you
that kind
should
of
be
stuff
doing
too.
is sitting down and asking, when a certain card comes up and they show this immediate magnet interest, kids are real good. It's like this. Ask them, what do you feel? Is it talking to you? Do you see something? Do you hear something? In other words, you're giving them permission to go ahead and open up, because they're afraid that, somebody might have told them, well, you don't hear things like that. You're crazy. Okay.
Eileen, I have a couple of other questions for you as well from Janie before she had to go off and sleep.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's one here. She says, this is for all of us who are trying to live a heart-centered life. Can you share with us what it means to you to be heart-centered and what you can share that will help us emulate your heart-centeredness too?
Okay. First of all, it's an either or. You're either in your head when you were born, or you were in your heart when you were born. If you were in your head and you got the right training or the right things for you, it's easier to go from the head. Let me tell you something. This is medically true, and everybody should listen to this because it's very, very important. And I'm glad she brought this up. Anatomically speaking, in 3D, in the left hemisphere of the brain, which is male dominated, it's masculine. Okay. There are actual nerve endings that go from there right down to our voice box. In other words, the left hemisphere of our brain has a voice in 3D. It can talk. Okay. Now, if you are right brain dominant, which all women are, it too has nerve endings, but it goes right down here and right into the heart. The heart's voice is our intuition. It is our knowing without knowing why we know what we know, but you have to friggin' trust it. And see, that's where so many women get strung up and blocked, because men make fun of women who have intuition. Okay. They are basically saying, shut it down, block it. You don't own it and you don't get it, whether they know what they're doing or not. Okay. Because it's a societal thing. Oh, intuition. Oh, So the heart's voice is our intuition. And if your heart is blocked, or if you want to move into your heart, okay, I have a beautiful shamanic way of doing it. And I'll be happy to pass it on to you right now. This is easy, okay? You close your eyes. First of all, you ground yourself, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths in the nose and out the mouth, okay? And are you going to do it, Eugenie? Okay, I'll wait till you're done to your 3. Keep your eyes closed. Now, I want you to visualize up in the center of your forehead where your 3rd eye is at. I want you to visualize your entire head leaving your neck and gently moving downward and floating downward and moving into your heart. Your entire head is going to fit into your heart. And tell me when it's done. It's done? Okay. So open your eyes. Okay. Do you feel any different? You don't have to.
It feels almost a little bit weird.
Uh-huh.
But also my body was shaking side to side. I don't know if I was visually shaking, but it was like somebody shaking me side to side. I
No,
don't know what that was about.
it was energy. You were totally still. I mean, you can play this back and you can see you were still. No, it was the energy. When we overthink things, when we give our energy to our mind instead of our heart, this is the type of reaction that a person gets. They'll feel like a vibrational, it's almost like a small earthquake, but it's just going back and forth like this because you're moving your mental energy of your head into your heart, which is pure love. Just always remember this. This is pure love. This is compassion. This is kindness. This is gentleness. This is sharing and helping. Okay, which all women are all good at this anyway. But for really highly mental people, and you are one, and so am I, okay, it's always good to bring our physical head into our heart. The first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is we do this visualization and set it there. And that way, there's going to be a better dynamic and a better harmony between your head and your heart. They are not enemies, but each has its own turf that it works on. And in a patriarchal society, it is strictly head and strictly mental and no heart. Absolutely none. And no intuition. So I want you to do that. And every woman should do that because you see, women are basically whole brain because we're right hemisphere dominant and we've lived all of our lives in a left hemisphere dominant male society. When we start turning on this side and putting our heads into our hearts, and you feel it, believe me, I've had people say, my God, I feel like there's an anvil in my heart now, or they feel lighter, or they feel more balanced, or they feel more harmonious, or they feel like there's an earthquake going on, but it's all energy. And that's a good sign. That's a good sign that the heart's going, oh my God, finally she's coming down. Because you're wonderful with your mental, you can speak well and you're organized, and that's all left brain. But all women have been taught to be left brain when they're right brain. And the right brain, anything has been made fun of and suppressed or repressed or made fun of, or, men just tell you that you're crazy, that you don't know what you're talking about, that you're stupid. Why can't you think like I do? Oh my God, please. I never want to think like you do. So that's a really, really good one. And it's good for every woman. And it's good for every child. Because remember, we're in a patriarchal, male-dominated society. And the sooner that you get children to move their head into their hearts, do it every morning before they get up or after they get up and go pee, that helps so much to rebalance the harmony. The heart isn't left out. The heart isn't a second or a third or it's just something that moves your blood around, okay? It's so much more than that. It's everything. And women are heart, right brain dominant. So, and that intuition is, boy, bring it on. listen to it. Do not ever hesitate. Just listen to what it's saying to you or where it's pushing you, because that's how your chief guide talks to you, is through your heart. That's all they know is heart, because it's pure love. They'll never talk to you through your head. It's always through the heart. Make sense?
I've just, as you're talking, just had this idea that we need to do a series on the podcast called Cosmic Chats, where actually there's just this conversation, because there's so much that can be learned just from having this conversation.
My God, yes.
Let's do it.
There's a lot to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Sarah,
So did I answer her question?
Oh, you did, and more. She's going to be so happy with this. And Sarah, did you want to share what you felt?
I did, because when I visualized my head going down to my heart said, get out, this is my space.
And yeah. That's normal. Yeah, because you've been trained to live in your head all the time. Just stop and think about this. Everything you've been trained for is what I see and what I hear. And who's talking at me? Your heart is your intuition, and your intuition has not been trusted. So of course the heart's pissed. Okay, but it'll get over it. The more you do it, the heart will realize that you're real about it. You're genuine. You really, really want this. It'll stop. Don't worry about it. Okay, it was testing you.
But it almost felt like, no, this is my place. I rule this place. My heart.
Thank you.
This place, not my head. You don't belong here.
Good.
It was like,
that's right. But what it does is, when you bring your physical head and visualize it in your heart, and the heart encloses all of it, okay, and contains it, all right, the head has to learn that it has a partner, that it isn't just it. There's two of you, and you're going to learn to get along, because you don't have any other choice about it. So get over your hissy fit, okay, and just do it. And because you know what's right for your body, you know how it feels, okay? And the first time you bring your head down into your heart, and there's been some white flags waved on both sides, okay? You're going to feel an incredible movement of locking in between your head and heart, and you become a team and a partnership then. That's what it was supposed to be in the first place. But this society totally separated and chopped out half of it, which is with women.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions, was about integrating left and right sides of the brain, head and heart.
This is
it is a struggle within me.
Oh, this is it. That, simple does it. It doesn't have to be complex, and it doesn't have to be hard. It has to be done every day. And it usually takes 30 days to retrain the brain and the mind to stop, being the egotistical monster that it is, and to shut up and go for it and let the heart be the primary. Your heart is primary. If you didn't have a heart, you wouldn't be alive. Think of it this way, okay? What's more important here, your heart or your brain? You can be brain, have mental problems or, whatever, for whatever reasons, but you're still alive and you're still breathing, right? If you don't have a heart, you're not here. So who really is primary in this anatomical body we live in? Just stop and think about the simplicity of this. That's all that matters. Okay? You want your heart dominant. You want your right brain dominant. And let me tell you, it's going to blow you open. And then look out.
Eileen, I have another question for you, but I know it's getting late there. Have you got time for one more question from Jamie?
Yeah.
Do you want us to wrap it up here?
All the time in the world.
You're right.
That's fine. We're good.
She said, for the newcomers to this work, how do you explain the difference between messages from spirit guides and messages from our divine selves, or our higher selves, our spirit selves?
Well, first of all, if there's messages that come in several different ways. They can come out from the outside of you, and you're clairaudient, and you hear them, okay? And it doesn't mean you're necessarily schizophrenic. That's number one. Number two, You have an ego. And this is where we have the real war, not a battle, but a war with our ego. Thank God most women have been so pounded into the ground, none of them have an ego, so to speak, like men who are just runaway egomaniacs. Okay, never mind that. The ego always wants, if you get into Carl Jung, okay, if you know about Carl Jung as a psychoanalyst, he has a lot to say about the ego, and it's good to read up on it. It's heavy reading, but things you'll absorb things about it. The only thing the ego is good for is the left hemisphere, which is to do the daily groceries, to pay the bills, to get a job, go to work, okay? Every 3D thing, organized, build houses, build skyscrapers. I don't care. All right. That's ego. But ego wants to control everything. And it wants to control the feminine side of us, which remember, midline, the left half of us, whether a man or woman, that is our feminine side. The other side is the masculine. But the ego wants to run over everything and dominate it and say it has to be this way. The ego is so sneaky, it will sit there and pretend that it's a voice telling you what is the best thing for you. You're a great person. Now, if you just do this way, the way I tell you, this is the way to do it. This is the hardest thing to do when you are trying to transfer from being 50% to 100%, is learning who's talking to me. Is it my ego, or is it my heart intuition, or is it my chief guide? Okay, I can shorten that for you. I can give you a method of going to your safe place and meeting your chief guide, which we are going to do with Eugenie's help later on, because we have to build this foundation first. We have to start the blocks, the building blocks. But at that point, when you are able to go to your safe place and meet your chief guide, all bets are off with the ego. Why? Because when you go into your safe, when you are taught how to go into your safe place, you're going from 3D into 4D. And that's the first time in your life that you are consciously going to move into a different dimension and yet hold your consciousness in 3D at the same time. Everybody can do this. Why? Because we have all the tools in our right hemisphere. They're here. We can do this. This is not unnatural. This is the most natural thing in the world. But you have to be trained up to do this. And that's my final goal, is to get people to their safe place, to find out who their chief guide is, to see them, and to actually talk to them telepathically, face to face. And you can ask your chief guide any damn thing you want in the world. And if they can tell you, they will tell you. There's things you're not supposed to know. Like, when am I going to die? And they die laughing when you tell them things like that, because mine tells me, well, you know better. But I don't ask things like that. I do know better. But the chief guide is going to give you everything that you need, and you can bet $100 on it and win. The ego can't go into 4D. The ego is only a 3D entity. Okay? This is what breaks that issue. But until then, it's really, really hard to decide, well, is this voice, or what I think is intuition, is it my ego, or is it my heart speaking to me? Is it my real intuition? Okay. And it's a battle. I did that for years, decades, until I finally was shown by my people that I was at an age and maturity that I could do that and handle it. And that's when they gave me the safe place information on how to do it safely and for the best vested interest of you being able to be whole. This is what it means to be whole. Okay. So you have a safe place. You can go to your spirit guide. You can sit and talk with her, him, it, whatever it is. It'll show up in a way that it's going to be very nice and very wonderful for you. Okay. I mean, if you believe in unicorns, then a unicorn will probably show up because you trust unicorns. You wouldn't trust a snake, but you would trust a unicorn. Okay. Makes sense? Everything I tell you is common, practical sense. It's not convoluted, it's not complex, it's simple. And that is everything because it takes away a lot of the complexity that confuses people. Okay? So this eventually we will get into the safe place and stuff, but that's probably 6 months or so, maybe 9 months down the line. You have to have a pregnancy here to learn, the foundations of energy anyway. But when we do it, we will do it as a group. And then we'll do a small group of volunteers and we'll do it together. And then after we do it, then we're going to have a Q&A, or we're going to have people say, okay, this is what happened to me. What did happen to me? Or what did they say? Or what did they mean by that? You need that training too. It's a step-by-step type of thing, okay? Because you don't trust yourself yet. And see, this is the important thing is that if you're really in your heart, your intuition, what you know is gold. It's gold. It can never be dismantled. It cannot be suppressed or repressed. It can't be made fun of. Let them think whatever they want. And you just go away laughing, going, you fools. Hey, what'll they have a life? I don't care. It's on you. But the ones that really want to learn it will do these things, and they'll do it right, and they'll do it consistently. And then you blossom. The moment you go from total 3D into 4D and you're coming back and forth, that oils that right hemisphere to the point to where it is really ready to roll with whatever skill sets that feel best or most comfortable for you to do and be and to use. Okay, you're not going to use all of them, but you'll use some that really call to you. Okay, in my case, I'm a shaman, period. That's it. But I love doing crystal healings, and I love doing the workshops on them, and I love showing people how to do it because I've been given permission by Ocean of Fast Wolf to do that. So, but rocks are my thing. And it just is what it is. You'll find what your things are, and they'll all be different, but they will be very meaningful to you developing this other 50%. I've got shamanic students who, after they've done 5 to 7 years with me, once they graduate, they don't like humans. They want nothing to do with humanity, but they love horses. I have one who does nothing but horses. I have another one who does nothing but animals. She wants nothing to do. I have another one that works only with water spirits around the world and works with the water, which, God, that's a book in itself about water is living. Make no bones about it. It is a living, conscious, sentient being. You have no idea what you can do with it.
Well, I think you were mentioning about there's going to be like a whole separate water.
Well, we're going to do charging water.
Yeah,
and that's the beginning. That's
going to be a big
beginning
one.
base of it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the start of it.
Eileen, I could talk with you all day long, and I so
I know,
appreciate.
we don't have that kind of time.
I love. I'm just. I know. If for anyone watching on Rumble, I'm not even going to say the YouTube word, but go watch on Rumble. Don't watch on YouTube because they take my videos down. But for those watching on Rumble and seeing me with this huge big grin, sorry, it was just because when you were talking about the guides, I was like, if there's not like this big ass rainbow guinea pig that turns up for Amy, I'm going to be.
That's okay.
She's the queen of guinea pigs. I think she's got like 30 of them, and they're so yeah, I just see your guy's going to be like this big ass fluffy rainbow guinea pig. Yeah, with a unicorn horn, a uni piggy. Yeah. It's a thing.
But let her. I love guinea pigs too.
Oh,
I have a penchant for guinea pigs, so I understand where she's at.
Ladies, we should probably wrap this up. Eileen, I love you so much. And I love these other two beautiful women that are with us as well. I'm just so grateful for all of you. Absolutely. And thank you so, so, so much. And I'm looking forward for us to build on this. And I'm looking forward for all the thousands of people, hopefully millions of people around the world that's going to be joining us on this journey that we won't even know, or probably will never even meet. But we're listening to this and touching their lives. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But we're just starting the first foundation rock tonight. Okay. There's many more to go. And this thing isn't going to, I really don't think you're going to have, hundreds of thousands of people watching this. Okay. It's just not going to appeal to them right now. Later on, it might. But, when you're starting to build an empire about Energy 101, it's going to take time. And the people who do come are the right people. And those are the ones you want to work with, because they're going to also help create a strong foundation as we continue to build over time. Okay. We're just right at the edge of the Aquarian age. This is Aquarian. What we are doing tonight is Aquarian. This is how it should be. Okay. Because every village had a shaman. They had a wife and a husband and children. And they would often train a child out in the village who had shamanic abilities, and the child lived with them, but they also went back to their own parents too. And they lived between two huts or two houses in the same village to learn this stuff like I did. And that's what we're going to do. And it's okay if there's only, a handful of people. That's plenty. And we've got some great people here. I can see their auras. I'm excited about working with each one of them.
Amazing. Lots of love to you, ladies. We're going to be chatting again very soon.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namago.
Love you.